Games have to be fun. Or do they? Games can be stressful and tiring and exhausting. Sometimes you have to grip the controller so hard that your knuckles turn white and your fingers are aching. And you don't want to make a step further because the things that are waiting are gruesome and horrifying. You'd rather stay put and wait, but that's not an option. Hello, today we are talking about Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, and it's this kind of game. It's hard to play. Welcome to Sightseeing Episode 8. We will have a look at tense gameplay and pacing, because after excitement and anxiousness, there also has to be relief. But let's take a step back. Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice is a game by Ninja Theory, published in 2017. A sequel is in the making, and as Microsoft bought Ninja Theory a couple of years ago, it will be an exclusive for PC and Xbox. As you can see, until this moment, nothing happened. We just walked around like in a walking simulator. And in some respect, Hellblade is a walking simulator. But this will change fast. Combat. You can do combat in many different ways. But if I'm talking about exhausting gameplay, it's not enough that the enemies look fearsome. It's not enough that the combat looks brutal. In fact, the combat system doesn't even have to be that hard or elaborate. It's the physical actions the player has to perform. These have to be exhausting. Look at QuickTime events. You can have a very stressful game only with QuickTime events, only with button mashing and button pressing. Remember summer games on the C64, where you had to grip the joystick and wiggle for your life. Look at Shadow of the Colossus, where you constantly have to press R2 to just grip the fur of the colossi. These are, I want to say, control mechanics, where you transfer the feeling that you want to create to a real physical action, to the controller. And you even improve that with rumble and haptic feedback. So that's our base. We are occupied by mashing buttons. How can we further improve the feeling of immediate raw action, of fear and danger? Ninja Theory chooses melee combat. Melee combat has the advantage that it's always very personal and physical and close. There is a slow focus mode, called bullet time in most games, that even feels closer. And you can literally breathe the closeness in the near-death scenes when you are hammering all the buttons and nothing happens. You're just hearing the voices stand up suddenly. The intimacy of the combat is accentuated by restricting the movement of Senua. Yes, you can roll, yes, you can move, but the camera sticks to the enemy. That narrows the possibility to escape certain situations. And when you roll, you're just rolling around your targets. You're dodging one pathetic blow, but you're not in a safe spot afterwards. In most action games you can get away for a while. Drink some esters, or pull a first aid kit out of the thin air. In Senua's Sacrifice you are glued to the enemy. And it's not only one enemy, there are several. It's common that two enemies are waiting at the same time. And by waiting I don't mean waiting. You are battling one enemy, the other one will stab you in the back. Playing with the feeling that there is something not on screen, but behind you, increases the suspense. This triggers an uncomfortable feeling in the player. And that fits well with the theme of the game. It's focused on Senua's mental disorder. She hears voices, and as a player, you do too. The game tries everything to put you in her shoes. So one goal of the combat is to be very immersive. And as we have seen in the Horizon Zero Dawn video, getting rid of the HUD can accomplish this. I switched it off in Horizon, but here in Hellblade you don't have it at all. So you always have to speculate, am I dying? What is my health? You have to rely on the visual information, the bloody frame for example. You have to rely on your heartbeat. You have to rely on the voices. And that's a neat little trick to get you used to listening to them. And then there's a last trick. After the first combat of the game tells you that you can't lose too many enemy encounters. Because you have only so many lives left, and if you die too many times, the game will delete all your progress. The darkness will consume you, and you will have to begin from the start. That's a very effective lie. It won't happen. You can continue and continue and continue. But it sets the right mood for the game. Everything counts. It's not just a battle that you can lose over and over again like the QuickTime events in Uncharted. You have to get better, you have to win. And that is pressure. Needed pressure for the game's formula. After the combat, the game switches into another gear. We have a puzzle area here. You can breathe a little bit, and if you're ready, you can activate these stones. Just to get stressed out again. The game loves the element of different realities in the same set. Here we have the same area, but it is burning down, and our goal is to find a way to the door. And that's clever. Not because you can use the same set again, you don't have to build new geometry. That's clever to make a game on a budget. No, it has an effect on game design. You have the whole combat scene to get familiar to the geometry of the level. So you can use your previous knowledge. And the game does this a lot. This firestorm was just the tutorial. After the cutscene, we will arrive in another area where we have to do it with more complex geometry. In the third one, we have to find symbols in the environment first. That's again a device to get used to the level that you have to traverse later when the firestorm begins. And it's effective in a completely other aspect because it can take a lot of time to find these symbols. It can even get annoying and boring. And let's talk about the tension of annoyance. We first had the physical thing where your fingers get sore. And now we are playing mind games because your mind wants to get input. And it doesn't, because you are blindly searching this environment and you see nothing. And here I spot the X finally, and that's a relief. Remember the staircase? Yes, I spotted it aimlessly wandering. Comes in handy now. Now a little balancing act and a surprise. An enemy during a firestorm. I didn't expect that. A great counterpoint to the exhausting search. And finally, we made it. Into a fourth rendition of the same theme. This is the final boss of firestorms and firestorm puzzles. A more complex set before the final boss fight of the area. That's Game Design 101, right out of the playbook and nothing special. We are following Senua on her last trip through the flames. We lose control of her and seem to not make it. But that is just a little introduction to a cutscene. The game takes this space to explain a little bit about the lore, about the background of Senua, and then the game picks up again with the boss fight. It's more physical, extreme, exhausting, button pressing. But the bosses have one specialty. They can switch into an invincible mode. And you as Senua have to enter focus mode to break up this state. And that's interesting because as Senua, you always hear these voices, except when you are concentrating by pushing the focus mode buttons. When you're doing this during normal gameplay, everything gets silent. And it's a weird experience. That silence is so refreshing because you always have these disturbing voices in your head and the disturbing soundscape. And then finally, after a stressful half an hour or so, you conquer the boss and you want to get your loot. And I love what the loot is. But I will stop here and switch to another area with another boss fight, because I think there it is much clearer. You have traversed this rainy, foggy area for hours or minutes, I don't know. And now you fight this boss with all the thumbs you have. And he dies. And what is your price? You may traverse the whole level again, backwards. But now in bright sunlight. And it's calm and peaceful, and you feel good, and you can finally enjoy the scenery. And that is a feeling that a tense game like that an exhausting and tireful game like that needs. And that was the point I want to make about Ninja Theory's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. If you have emotional lows in your game, the brighter points shine so much brighter. Thank you for joining me on this little journey, and see you next time.